Fantasy Life I, The Girl Who Steals Time, is the latest attempt to revive the life sim JRPG hybrid formula that made the original a cult classic. But does it live up to that legacy? After dozens of hours spent fighting, crafting, and harvesting, is this the cozy JRPG revival we've all been waiting for, or just another Grindfest with a cute face? Let's talk story, systems, and whether it's worth your time. You start off the game as an explorer traveling by ship alongside archaeologist Edward, following the trail of a mysterious glowing dragon fossil to a deserted island. On the ship, the dark dragon attacks, and the bone fossil reanimates into a bone dragon and saves you. It leads you through a magical gate into what looks like a thriving civilization, until it's revealed that you've actually traveled back in time. The story plays out across different eras, blending past, present, and an ongoing mystery. The game's core mechanic is its life system, which functions similar to Final Fantasy XIV's job system. You can freely switch between a wide range of classes like farmer, mercenary, woodcutter, alchemist, and many more. Each life has its own gear set, skill tree, and quest line, which is so amazing. I love that. And honestly, that is the biggest selling point here. It's the gameplay loop. The gameplay loop is centered around those lives, or classes. It is the ideal setup for grinding jobs and mastering them. Every life is fun in its own right, and the game does a solid job of making progression feel extremely rewarding, no matter what path you take. I was blown away by the life system in this. We'll get into it later on, but wow, I did not expect this game to do so well, making monotonous tasks feel so much fun. I highly applaud this game. Let's jump right in and talk about this, because this is going to be the center point of the game. This is what I love so much about it. And let's start with gameplay, because honestly, that's what kept me grinding deep into endgame. The life system in Fantasy Life I is one of the best features I've ever seen in a JRPG life sim hybrid. Here's how it works. There's 14 total lives. 12 are available early on, and 2 you unlock a few hours into your game. Each life has its own mentor who gives you quests. The more quests you complete, the more you level up that life. Each life also comes with a dedicated skill tree. You'll need to unlock new abilities and stat boosts through the tree in order to complete your mentor's quests. What I really appreciated here is that the quests aren't just easy checkbox tasks, and the skill trees aren't shallow. You'll need to engage with both systems to progress. Because of the challenge baked into each life, it genuinely feels like you're playing a JRPG tailored to that class. Most other life sims fall into the trap of repetitive grinding. You make 10 of the same item, chop trees until your brain melts, mine ores, grow flowers, but not here. You're actively progressing, unlocking new mechanics, and using those skills to take on actual boss fights. And yes, boss fights. The combat and gathering class edge each come with their own boss fights, and there's a lot of them. For example, as a miner, you'll come across massive ore deposits marked with crowns on your map. These are the bosses. It'll take all of your stats, gear, abilities, and timing to mine them successfully. And when you finally chip away after hours of grinding, it's so satisfying because it is hard. It's fun. It's engaging. You need the skills from your skill tree to actually beat these bosses. And the skills for mining, for example, are something like power hits, or you need to charge up your ultimate ability and use it to finish off the boss to get the best rewards. Things like that. This is easily the best design I've seen in any farming or life sim to date. It made every class feel like it belonged in a real JRPG. It wasn't just grind until the number go up. This was a class-based adventure disguised as a cozy game, and man, did I absolutely love it. For the combat classes in Fantasy Life, it's simple action combat. And while I'm usually not a fan of that style, for this game, it does just work. You don't have a giant moveset, just a handful of abilities per class, but that limitation creates balance. I never got insanely overpowered, and as a result, the boss fights actually felt challenging. It's very similar to how I felt when I played Rune Factory 1. Even though Rune Factory 1 doesn't have a wide range of abilities and just tons of things you can unlock combat-wise, it does make simplicity challenging, and I think there is a beautiful design in that. And it really shows up here in Fantasy Life I. Yes, the combat was very simple. It's basically a 3-hit combo for each weapon. But because the way the bosses are set up, you needed to use that 3-hit combo in a specific way to beat each boss, and the bosses were hard. They weren't easy. If you didn't have the correct gear and if you were under-leveled, it was hard to beat the boss. And to craft that better gear, you'll need materials that only drop from tough enemies, and to beat those enemies, you'll need stronger equipment, crafted through the jobs like blacksmith or carpenter. To level up those, you need rare materials. That loop works incredibly well. I couldn't just brute force my way through. I had to engage with multiple systems that kept the difficulty in check without feeling punishing. Now, this isn't the hardest game out there. I honestly would have liked a bit more difficulty. Still, I think it has an amazing balance. I mostly used the mercenary class and the hunter class for combat, and they both felt incredibly solid. Again, if there was a slider for difficulty, I would want it to be at least an 8 out of 10. This game was more like a 6 or 7 out of 10 for difficulty. It's not Elden Ring, but it really doesn't need to be. Now let's talk about the Gathering lives. And I have to say this, they were absolutely perfect. Chef's kiss. In most games like this, Gathering feels like snooze fests. For me, I like to have a reward for the things I do, and Fantasy Life I really complimented that. Everything you did, we were grinding towards a reward, which felt amazing. There was a purpose for everything. Each Gathering class had its own boss nodes, like I talked about before. The Miner gets massive fairy ore veins. The Woodcutter gets mystical trees, and the Fisher faces off against literal boss fish. These fights required upgraded tools, high stats, and even strategy. It was amazing. Best of all, you need to repeat them because the materials you earn are required for higher end gear. It adds a layer of progression and satisfaction I've never felt while chopping trees. This is the first time I've been excited to go fight the tree boss in a cozy game. Fighting the giant cherry blossom tree after attempting 5 or 6 times and finally chopping it down was maybe one of my favorite moments in the game. Now, as for the crafting lives, they're a bit simpler, but they shine in their own way. Every item you craft comes with a minigame based on your life's workbench. They're not difficult, but they require timing and quick input, especially at higher levels when perfect crafting is the only way to get top tier gear. So basically, it's a very reactive system where you have to be perfect in order to craft the best materials. It is fun, but it is simple and easy. In this game, you can build and you can customize your island, and I'll be honest, this one really wasn't my thing. Your town acts as a hub where characters you meet take up residence. You unlock more infrastructure and building options as you progress the story and complete quests. You can place homes, farms, and decorations, eventually even terraforming your own island. But there's some issues. It's more of an endgame feature. You don't really get a whole lot of customization through the main story and early on, unless you do some of these side quests, but you're really limited in both style and quantity, and I personally didn't vibe with the default buildings aesthetic either. That said, there's clearly more depth in the late game. I just haven't unlocked it all yet. I really want different styles in the game. Like, I would love if there were special events that added more buildings and different styles to the island you could build, like a Halloween event or a Christmas event or something like that. I just didn't really like any of the styles of the towns, and it just seemed like you unlocked buildings that were similar to the styles in the game already, and I just wasn't vibing with them. So this wasn't really my highest priority. Maybe later on in late game I'll get to building, but honestly, it'll probably be very, very towards the end. There's a system in the game called the Buddies system. This was a pleasant surprise. Fantasy Life I lets you recruit buddies, random villagers you find out in the world, some who even drop from bosses. Most of these are found in the late game regions in Ginormosia. To unlock them, you'll discover objects like flags or pianos that talk to you. Bring them back home in the future, and they can transform back into people. Each has their own life and stats, and you can bring up to 3 of them in your party. They're basically party members. You get NPC party members. If you're like me and you have 0 friends who want to play this game, the buddy system is a lifesaver. It adds extra party members and is absolutely necessary when it comes to crafting and gathering. This isn't a fun gimmick. You will need to use these party members on your team, just like you would in a JRPG, because they will help you a ton in fighting the boss fish, in fighting the mystical tree, in battling the boss ore deposits. You will need these party members to either cheer you on, to give you resources and power-ups, or to actually help you in mining, chopping down trees, or fishing. They are essential because the bosses, again, are very hard, which is great because, like a lot of us who play cozy games, I feel like it's kind of a niche, and a lot of people don't have friends who like cozy games. So having these extra party members in here is a shout out to the lonely cozy gamers out there. Let's talk a little bit about gameplay progression. Progression and pacing are spot on in this game. The story aligns well with your life levels, and I never felt too strong or too weak at any point. The life system also encourages synergy. For example, I level up my cooking life while leveling fishing, since I was able to turn fish into meals. And it worked well with other things like that too, like carpentry and woodworking, or blacksmithing and mining. They all go hand in hand. and you can level them at the same time, and it rewards you to level them at the same time. But the best part about the pacing of this game is something I haven't really touched on just yet: Ginormosia. It's a massive open world area introduced early on in the game, but clearly built for endgame content. There's so much to do here. I barely touched it during the main story, but I'm planning a whole separate video of just exploring it properly. Ginormosia definitely deserves its own video. Trust me, that place is huge and there is so much content to unpack there. I can't think of any pacing problems this game has. It was designed perfectly for pacing. You had to get your lives up and your combat class up, and the whole game kind of came together all in a neat little, perfectly paced package. Let's move on to the story, and this is where my first major critique comes in. I honestly tried to care about the story. I really did. I watched all the cutscenes, I tried to get into it, but in the end of the day, I just wasn't very invested. It felt more like a story written for kids than something that matches the depth of the gameplay systems. And don't get me wrong, I get that this is a Japanese game, and it's probably written for the younger demographic in mind. But it's hard to reconcile that when the mechanics are so deep and clearly aimed at older players, especially here in the States. Here in the West, most people playing farming sims, well, from what I've seen, are in their 20s or older. These games are slow, methodical, and honestly, kind of repetitive at times. They're not really for the TikTok generation. I just wish the story leaned more into that, something with a bit more emotional weight or complexity. I don't really care about the story that much, and I think most people who play cozy games are an adult. But with that said, I really did enjoy the world building. The story may have not hooked me, but the setting absolutely did. You've got 3 layers to the map: the past, the present, and Ginormosia. Each one feels distinct and full of potential. The moment you unlock the world map, you see how much there is to explore, and it hits you. This game is going to be massive. Every biome feels like it belongs in an old school JRPG. It's colorful, straightforward, and packed with fun bosses, hidden quests, and grindy, cozy goodness. Honestly, even if the story didn't do much for me, the world itself more than made up for it. I was excited to explore each area. Ginormosia had me just on my edge of my seat, wanting to get through the story so I can unlock this massive world and really sink my teeth into it. Ginormosia feels like the overworld map of an original Final Fantasy game. I didn't really care. I don't think anyone in the West even cared about the story, I'll be honest with you. Even the kids. I don't think kids really like kids' stories. We were all here for the grind, and that's okay. On to the presentation of the game. Honestly, I was extremely skeptical of the art style going into this game. In fact, the main reason I didn't pick it up day one is I thought it would look shallow, low effort, maybe even cheap. I'm sorry, Level 5. I love Level 5. Dark Cloud's one of my favorite games ever. And this one, I'm not a fan of Professor Layton and that kind of art style. I just think it looks very kiddish and very shallow. Turns out I was the shallow one here. After actually playing this, I can say that the art style fits the game perfectly. It nails the cozy, whimsical vibe this kind of life sim needs, and honestly, it's fantastic. I feel ashamed for judging it so hard early on. I should have trusted the company I love. I do love Level 5, and man, I feel poorly about judging this art style so hard because I do think it fits here for the aesthetic they are going for. It's not pushing any hardware limits, but it does exactly what it sets out to do, and it does it well. Lesson learned: don't judge a farming sim by its cover art, unless it's Fae Farm. I didn't really enjoy that one. As for performance issues or bugs or anything like that, I played this on PS5 and I had 0 issues. The game ran smooth from start to finish. I've seen people complain about small bugs here and there, but honestly, I've worked in the back end of game dev, and unless the game launches completely broken like Cyberpunk 2077, performance usually doesn't matter as much as people think. Reviews often nitpick minor frame drops or game crashes, and honestly, those get patched within the next week or even days for a lot of games. I'll be completely honest with you guys, on Steam, you really have to think about this. Most people can't afford a over 1K gaming PC. Majority of people are playing on a laptop that is going to be on their lap, on a blanket, covered in dust, and just fur and grime and gross. So most people leaving their reviews about performance issues are actually playing on low-end laptops or old PCs. So those reviews and those performance issues you see are normally going to be very skewed. Its performance is based on system to system, not so much the game in general. Sure, there's a lot of ways to fix that on the game dev side, but there is a limit where you have to stop and accept that it's just not going to play on older PCs. There's only so much you can really do. As far as I'm concerned, if it runs and doesn't crash consistently, it's fine. This game ran just fine for me. No bugs at all. If there were any bugs, I didn't even notice. Even a game like Ark Survival Evolved, which is known for its bugs, who cares? I loved Ark. I don't care if the game bugs out consistently. I mean, it's such a small nitpick concern that really shouldn't be in any reviews because it's based on system to system, not fully on the back end. As for channel track, it's fine. Nothing bad, nothing stand out either. I've actually been listening to it while I write this review, and honestly, it just feels like lo-fi background music. It fits the genre, it's relaxing, chill, and gets the job done. You don't expect anything as iconic as like Rune Factory or Dragon Quest, you know, it's just kind of chill vibes. But overall, the presentation is kind of what kept me away from this game initially, and I really regret being that shallow. I was foolish. Now let's talk replay value. And honestly, this really isn't much. I'm actually a big proprietor of no replay value on games. I think overall, games should not be replayed. Unless there's multiple storylines, like something like Fire Emblem Three Houses or anything multiple storylines. But overall, I think it, and maybe I'll talk about this in a video later on, but just think about it. If you go into the ice cream shop and you only try vanilla ice cream and you like it a lot, nothing wrong with that. But if you're spending all your time eating vanilla ice cream, you're never going to try the other flavors. So we see that with Skyrim, we see that with Fallout, we see that with a lot of things that people say have replay value, but they don't really. It's just kind of the same story over and over again. And people spend most of their gaming lives playing only those games. And you don't really get the full take of what's at the ice cream shop. You don't get to try the other flavors because you're just having vanilla. And there's a safety in that, I get it. Going into more psychology, it's the safety in doing the same thing over and over again. It's rewarding, it's comforting, but I'm actually a proprietor of no replay value in games. I think there's too many games out there that want to be played, and I don't have time to play, hundreds of hours into a 100-hour game over again. That's my personal take on that. Maybe I'll do a video about that later, but as for this game, there's no real replay value. You can do almost everything in the game in the first run. I'd say if you are going to replay this game, I'd maybe do challenge runs where you don't use specific classes, or you try to beat the game as one class, something like that. But other than that, this game doesn't have replay value, but it doesn't really need it, because in the post game of the game, you can explore a massive continent called Ginormosia. You can really explore it anytime through the game, but you can really get the most out of it in endgame. And this is where the real grind begins. It's a sprawling endgame region packed with activities, rare materials, tough enemies, and new gear. Yes, it gets a little repetitive because it's so huge and it's not procedurally generated, but it kind of feels like it. But it's a life sim. Of course it's going to be repetitive. That's what we're here for. We don't mind the repetitiveness as we're playing this. The real question is the reward worth it? Yes, it is, because you get these awesome, cool ultimate weapons from Ginormosia, and there's tons of different things you can unlock in the game in Ginormosia. Again, I'll save a whole video for this, but it's very rewarding, and I think this is a great addition to the game. And instead of replaying the game, you could just get lost in Ginormosia for the rest of your life. Even better, too, there's announced a free open world roguelike mode is coming and a free patch. And I'm genuinely excited for this. If they pull it off, it could completely change how people engage with the game long term. It also shows that the devs are serious about ongoing updates, which gives me hope that this will be a long supported title. This is level 5, Resurrection from the Grave, and I really hope they do a good job of consistently updating and giving DLCs to players who love the game. There's a lot I loved about Fantasy Life I, the Girls Who Steals Time. I've been working through the Rune Factory series back to back lately, and this game really stands out when it comes to making monotonous tasks fun and engaging. Unlike Rune Factory, I actually looked forward to gathering wood and ore, because in this game, those activities lead to boss battles against giant trees or massive ore deposits, as I've mentioned multiple times. Sorry, I really love that. It made the grind exciting. The gameplay is what kept me hooked well into the post-game, and it's genuinely fun. Now on the flip side, I don't love the childish vibe of the story. I get that the grind-heavy nature of the game makes it tough for kids to enjoy, and maybe that's why the story was written to be more kid-friendly, but the disconnect is real. The gameplay is deep and methodical, something you'd expect adults to appreciate. Yet the story feels like it's written for like a Sunday morning cartoon. But hey, again, this is a Japanese game, and culturally things are different. Maybe kids in Japan do vibe with this kind of thing more than Western kids do. I feel like Western kids are glued to Fortnite, Minecraft, and Roblox, and I could totally be wrong about the intended audience. I don't know what the Japanese kids play, but maybe I'm just so used to the Western kids being, the term TikTok kids, where everything has to be really short and quick. Still, if you're on the fence about picking this one up, just pull the trigger. It's fantastic. If you're into cozy farming sims, Fantasy Life I actually gives meaning to all those repetitive tasks. It's the most farming sims reward you with endless gold for doing the same thing over and over and over and over. This game gives you reasons to mine, to fish, to chop wood, bosses, crafting progression, gear, post-game exploration. There's purpose behind the grind. and that's what makes it special. I highly recommend this to cozy sim fans, JRPG fans, and anyone looking for a time sink that respects your time. This is a solid 8 out of 10 for me. Great gameplay, childish story, but an excellent post game. Go buy it now. You'll sink way more time into this game than you think, and you will not regret it. If you play Fantasy Life I, let me know what you think of it. Like and subscribe, guys, if you want to check out other JRPG content. More retrospectives, reviews, and deep dives are on the way.